Have you ever felt like your business is just one step away from falling apart no matter how many new ideas you come up with? For us with ADHD and entrepreneurs specifically, that instability can feel overwhelming. It's like we're constantly putting out fires instead of working on the things that truly move us forward, like we're stuck. And if that sounds familiar, stick around because today I'm sharing 5 powerful strategies to help you turn all that chaos into clarity. So one of the biggest reasons we feel unstable as ADHD entrepreneurs is that we lack a solid foundation. We often think, I'll find stability later. Right now that's not important. I just need to keep moving. But without a basic structure and without that stability, everything else starts to crumble. So here's the thing. You don't need an elaborate system right off the bat, but you do need something, right? So this brings us to strategy number 1, which is a minimum viable structure. We don't need something complex, but we do need something to build on. So this is a basic framework for one part of your business, one area. So pick something super basic, easy to implement, like organizing finances or setting a daily to-do list or time blocking. Keep it simple. Maybe it's a whiteboard. Maybe it's Post-it notes. The idea is not about what you're starting in the system. It's about starting to think with simple systems and use something for a week and then make adjustments as you go. Trust me, even the small steps give you a foundation to build on. So it's less about the system. It's more about being somebody who works on structure and systems. Now, for strategy number 2, brain dump and let go. I'm sure you know how our ADHD brains love to brainstorm. It's a huge part of what makes us special, the creativity constantly. But the problem is it's super easy to feel paralyzed by the number of ideas. It's too much, right? So to keep things under control and get into the habit of brain dumping regularly, you need to clear the junk. So where most of us go wrong, and I see this constantly with my clients, is we fall into the trap of thinking that we need to save all this junk. Have you ever been in a conversation and forgot what you were going to say, and then someone says, well, if it's that important, I'm sure you'll remember it, right? The same principles apply. So we get trapped into thinking all these ideas are so priceless, and if I don't save them, they'll be lost forever. That couldn't be farther from the truth. What we think is we need to do something with these ideas and make sure they're available. But let me let you in on a little secret. We don't. We don't need to save them. We don't need to store them. And what's happening is so much of our energy is going to storing them, categorizing them, accessing them, looking for them. I'm exhausted even describing it to you. So we want to learn how to let go of them so that all that other stuff doesn't steal our energy. And guess what? These ideas and accessing them at a future time is not what matters, right? So it's about letting them go so you can free your brain and your energy up and make space for the stuff in that moment that does matter, like following through on the task at hand or finishing the most important thing of the day. We need to remind ourselves with this idea obsession, and I only can speak about it because it's the story of my life, and all my clients deal with this, that these ideas are not lost forever. They're not as valuable as we think, and they're going to come back, right? So just let go and then get back to what we're doing. And we don't need all these systems and tools and a million different places to store them, because then that just becomes more noise, more logistics. And these ideas will be available when you need them. Trust me. Now, strategy number 3 is the could do, must do list. And I use this with all my clients. So being an entrepreneur with ADHD can feel like everything is urgent. Like somehow, it all needs to be done now, but then it also feels like everything can wait, and try to make sense of that. So because we have challenges with executive functioning and we are not good with planning and prioritizing, it feels like it's all now or not now, right? And the ability to sift through that can be really difficult for us. So it feels like everything's critical now. So that triggers overwhelm, but then it feels like it's impossible to do any one thing. So then everything can wait. And we go back and forth and it's really frustrating. So a good strategy that I've been using with my clients is coming up with this simple, basic exercise called the could do, must do list. So you grab a pen and paper and you have two columns. You got the left is the could do, the right is the must do. So you start dumping everything in the could do list that comes to mind, everything I could do today, tomorrow. There's going to be a lot of stuff there. Then on the right side, when you're done, you scan on the left under the could do. You find the one thing that's most important and you add that to the must do list. So now you've got a whole bunch of stuff on the could do list. You have one on the must do list so far. Now you go back and you scan again and you say, okay, what's the next one that I actually must do today? I really must do. Add that, right? So now you have two in the must do list and everything else is there as a could do. So now maybe two, maybe three in the must do. You want to go put this away and go figure out when and, where and how you're going to go execute on those two. Might be right now. It might be in 2 hours. It may be I'm going to time block my afternoon, but that's what matters. Then when you're done with those two, you come back to the list or make a completely new list and go through it again. And the goal is to kind of funnel down from this massive idea that everything's important right now to these are all things I could do, but there's usually one or two that I must do. Home stretch. Strategy number 4, sprints win marathons. Now, hyperfocus is one of our superpowers, but it can also be a curse because what happens is we might dive into a task and then lose hours and hours and realize it wasn't even a priority and we got stuck in hyperfocus. So to harness hyperfocus in a way that works, we have to learn how to embrace and control our sprints. So a major challenge for us is that we have two speeds. We have on and hyperspeed. Off and hyperspeed. So that makes it feel like we're constantly on a roller coaster, right? And we're having extreme highs and extreme lows. But we need to start operating more like a marathon runner that will have short bursts or sprints back down to a steady movement in between, maybe a little sprint and then back to steady. They're not stop start and they're not going all in. So this is the trap we fall into. And we often get so far behind that it feels like we have to sprint excessively to catch up. And we're constantly, feeling this behind overwhelm. So that's what perpetuates the burnout and makes it really hard to be steady in between because we're so fried. So we need to master the toggling, the modulation between a sprint and then a pace, a sprint and a pace. It's not all or nothing, right? So step 1 for this strategy, start by picking some music. For me and my clients, different music really helps get us in the zone. And the key is experiment with the music that works for you so that you can get into that hyper-focused zone. Now, in order to prevent you from going off the rails and looking back in 4 hours, we want to architect a time bubble. So either 90 minutes, 30 minutes, have something else coming up, a timer. Make sure that the time is constrained. And then we want to make sure we're in the right environment. So in order to lock in on that hyper focus and be able to get in and get out, pick an environment that works well for you and that you might not be able to stay there for hours and hours. Right? I've done it where I go somewhere and I know I have to leave in 2 hours. It's not possible for me to stay there for 4 hours and get stuck, right? I have somewhere else to be. I have to go get in the car. So I have a timer and alarm. So by architecting these things, the music, the time constraints, the environment, we often need these external structures, which is hard for us because we struggle to plan in advance. But when we can architect these conditions, then we just show up and do what we do. And we have the systems in place like a fail safe. We can't stay too long. We can't go too deep. And this helps us control these sprints. So they're not all, 5 hours in a black hole, but they're also not 20 minutes I did nothing, right? And we want to constantly be searching for that sweet spot where, we're keeping a steady pace. We push a little harder. We take a little rest, push a little harder. So I hope this has been helpful. This is the kind of work we do with my clients. We have a weekly group. It's fantastic. The results people are seeing is insane. I'm blown away. $60,000 in consulting contracts, $2,000 a month to $10,000 a month. One client completely transforming their business, reinventing the way they work. So this stuff works. I believe in it. I live it. And I would love for you to join us, maybe at a free workshop, join my newsletter, but subscribe, and it was great having you. Leave a note in the comments on what works for you and if you have any other questions and want to see other videos. You guys rock.